reality exists first in the consciousness. Everything that you're experiencing exists in your consciousness first. The mind does not distinguish consciousness from unconsciousness. The mind does not distinguish sleep from being awake. The body does. You understand? Yeah, the lead singer. Yeah. Yeah. The person, when we thought that Sade was the light-skinned Nigerian singer chick, that chick is Sade is actually the group, and then that group, who I think lead singer is Helen, is also either related or whatever to the lady, the singer, this actress named Helen something Sade. So they just took the first part off and just named the group after her. Thank you. Thank you. For all the Sade I do. Thank you. Islam, more. Islam. Yes. So that's what I'm saying. Like we're everybody calling her Sade, but that's not even her name. That's not you dig what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? So you gotta remember, so after they did that with them groups, they did the same thing to rock and roll and all of that. It's just that rap over eclipsed all music. There's no music that's not hip hop no more. So they had to conform all the other music under hip hop norms and then started to apply the same mind control ritual stuff to all these other genres of music. You understand? Country music, because that's always been mind control stuff. Chris Christopherson was a huge mind control programmer, they say. So was what's his name? Kenny Rogers. I think this was huge with the MK Ultra and all of that. And Dolly Parton being put through the program, the what you call it, porcelain doll program and all of that, while she can never be seen without makeup and all that. Like, that's part of how they raise these people, man. Yeah, man. I've been told, but that's the thing. Like, I've been talking about this for years. You know what I'm saying? But hearing it in the context of, you know, these people, even me talking about a lot of these people that the sister been talking about and other people been talking about over the years, it don't matter. It's just that now it seems more permeant because we are now more aware of the overarching powers at play with all of this crap. You understand? So that's why it seems more prevalent. But it's been always the same. Yeah, she got a trans kid. You see what I'm saying? See how they get you? Try to find some way. Look at like how they did Michael Magic Johnson's son. That thing is scary. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's all part of the agenda. That's all part of the overall need to pervert the original aspect of man and woman. You know what I mean? And that's how they've engendered themselves to deal with it. And then while they're in it, they want to try to do certain good things which appear as good because they know how much, you know, crap they dealing with. But it gets to a point where you get options to be able to free yourself. But then even when you do that, they come at you, like with your man Tory. Like, is it a coincidence that Michael Jackson got all his masters and all of that money? Then they started going at him. Then Prince got his masters and all that. Then they start going in on him. Then what's his name got his masters and they start going in on him. Now Tory Lanez get his masters. Now they all going in on him. Nipsey Hussle got his masters. They went all on him. You understand? Like, this is what they doing, man. They don't want nobody to be free. They want everybody to believe that they all come from the same Neanderthal bloodline that everybody else come from. It's not true. Regardless of how much blacks want it to be true and will do things to breathe themselves into, you know, these fake bloodlines and stuff to want to get things. And all they wind up doing is cursing themselves, bringing, you know, shame to their families. I'm talking about interracial relationships, or things like that. I'm talking about the idea that you can be in something like that in a context that you still believe both people in the context still believe the narrative. Thereby, you're always the slave descended from the slave in a relationship, and then what, she's always the descendant of the master in a relationship. Like that's not how it really was, and that's not how it really is. But that's always the focus, regardless to whether or not you could be totally against all of that, and still you live on Earth. You know what I'm saying? You live on Earth, and on Earth, these creatures of law have created a system by which they created the parameters of to hate people and murder and maim people based upon how they look. Where at one time it was based on what they believed. Then at another time it was based on where they were at. Then another time it was based on, you see what I'm saying? However, what we are getting caught up in and missing the forest for the trees is that we existed a long time before any of this stuff, man. We have huge epochs in our history where everything was all good, man. We can't even get into that aspect of it because we're so locked into what they tell us this reality is that we, again, man, we're going by the history of what a caveman is telling us and his Negro sock puppets of varying national identity that are trying to get us to still relate to outmoded concepts, where they got us thinking that the people in the past is actually less technologically advanced than we are now. Think about that, bro. Think about what that means. But everything that we got now is based on what the people in the past did. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you really think that Benjamin Franklin got some string and a kite and put a key on it and held it up in the sky and allowed the lightning to hit it and did not get electrocuted? You believe that? What he had on? He had on what he had, Jordan 6s, had on some sort of rubber insulation sneaker. You know what I'm saying? Like, you believe that? They're still teaching that. That is an allegorical Freemasonic story that never happened. That never happened. Because we already had paved streets. We already had working toilets. You understand? We already had paved streets. We already had street lamps, lights. I'm talking about in the 1200s. I'm talking about when these things was in the dark. We had running toilets, sanitation, aqueducts all over the world. That's why you could go all over the world and see the same type of architecture, the same type of people, the same type of headdress, but they just may rock it a little different, whatever. But now they want to call these ones this one and these ones that one or whatever. And that's not what the people call themselves. You got these fools that are so pro-black, so pro-scholar, so RBG, right? And then these the first dudes to tell you, oh, well, more, that's a Greek word. That comes to, the Greeks named them that. What? So first you're acknowledging that there was a civilization that they refer to as Greece, when we know perfectly well that that was a conglomeration of Peloponnesian cultures that existed along what became the Macedonian Empire, which then fell to the Carthaginian Empire and whatever. So these people that you're calling Greeks was really themselves calling themselves Athenians and Spartans, and you see what I'm saying? And these people was not Caucasian. First of all, then you saying that they had the ability to name a whole nother group of people who already existed prior to them meeting these people you call Greeks. You see how they purport white supremacy, or what they supposedly against white supremacy over you because you done figured it out for yourself. They was messing with the time. It was making it like almost like 2 days to get the joint downloaded. It's like, I don't got time for all of that. Too much in the real world. So I just figured, I'll wait till they figure that out. So I did one, I think last week. There might be a new one up from there. I think I'm gonna do it next Friday. But yeah, I'm slowing up because there's so much out there, and these dudes is out here just really wilding. Like I did a show the other night, and these Aboriginal people, man, they bugged out, bro. They just sometimes I wonder why they even want somebody like me to come on the show. But the brother's always been peace who hosted it, so I can't say nothing negative about that. But these guys be so think they scholarly with stuff and be so like taking stuff out of context. It's crazy. Where you can wear a war bonnet and then they try to turn it into it being like you're promoting Indianism, when how many constant instances have I showed that that's a ancient Incan address that was adopted into the Mayak system and then brought up through the creek and then became the instance of the war chief. Like, so, try to be patient, but at the same time, it's just funny seeing how people just, regards to how much real direct information you give them, they want to make it something about like you personally. And I just don't get into none of that because the facts speak for themselves. But what I'm saying about the like you said, the Los Indios, the godless ones, like this situation. Everybody wanna when people go out of their way, like because white folk go out of their way to try to prove they superior, they inferior. So when people go out of their way not to embrace, they want to embrace every aspect of so-called African, what they call African culture, except Moors, that there's something else going on. And it's always an apron involved or some sort of, agreement or prejudice when half of these people never even heard of the Moors or even any of that, where it wasn't even really in the lexicon of the English language like that. Unless you knew Moors, like me coming up, like I said, man, it was rare. It wasn't until after 2000, all of that, and then I'm going hard, you know what I mean? And I'm seeing the expansion to now they're trying to outprice the knowledge from the Moors. But it's already out there. But remember, this is why they broke down all the black bookstores to get rid of them. So that way we'll be forced to deal with Amazon and all of that. Because none of these so-called black celebrities, literary celebrities, Ta-Nehisi Coates and these niggas, what did these niggas, what did they do to help with the literary aspect of that? All of the literary foundations and stuff like that was run by Jews. You understand? And to get on, you gotta write and do crazy slave plays with a, crazy shit. So on your screen is a representation again of the four rivers coming down from the pole, girdled by the ice wall that they say is melting, but it's been melting since I don't know how long, and it's still there. So whatever they talking about, you gotta understand everything they talking about now is a damn lie. So what you figure out yourself is better. Well, not so much. See, again, that's what I mean, the juxtaposition. round Earth, flat Earth. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you look at the joint I did called the square stationary Earth, I spoke on what our ancestors really referred to it as. It's basically a realm. It's like a spheroid that we exist on that's perpetually expanding out, like a drop of water into a bucket. You see that ripple? That's it. So it's the same thing with this. It's a vast plane that has different realms, and each realm has its own Taurian field or torus field that encases its own dimensional frequency. Thereby, it has its own moon, its own sun, its own stars, its whatever. And then outside the ring on the other side, it's the same thing going on. And then outside that one, the same thing going on. So at one point, we can write a universe or an omniverse, something that is perpetually existing, much less like the globe Earth and more like Asgard if you expand that more outward. So it's not like the water's flowing into nowhere. You know what I mean? It's just constantly going out. And then outside of that exists what they refer to as space, or what we refer to as the firmament, which are the ancient primordial waters, again, that allegedly exist outside of the known reality that these niggas been trying to put holes in, according to Hillary Clinton, for mad years. So we go back when all of this stuff was basically known. And again, everything from the south is basically the top. So think of Florida as the top of the country, and then New York and Canada, all that in the north. See what I'm saying? So all of this was switched up. Just right here, this compass is from the Missouri Museum, Constitution Museum, or whatever out there. And look how it was prior to Reconstruction. So that's how you can have the centralized power coming down from each thing, and each gate is then represented by one of the people or empires, original peoples that existed from when everything was reorganized. Right. So that in context with the proximity of how close everything actually is, how far they actually try to make everything in our minds. No, I make everything in their minds. We wind up again perpetuating the same ideas, which then keep us locked in this constant fight with one another, because we won't let each other's point be heard or seen, because we are at odds with the same information. You dig what I'm saying? Like all of this is connected. It's all on the same earth. Your ancestors didn't look at it as like countries and all of that came in later. We're talking about families who are part of clans or prides or what we call tribes, and the constant infighting that was taking place between these so-called houses of different, let's say, nationalities, but of the same creed. You understand? So literally, we're in a position that when you understand that it's all, in a sense, connected, and that everything that they're creating is based upon something that spiritually exists to empower you, but is turned on its head by people that look like you. You see, you're always at odds with yourself. Yo, that's ill you said that, because I was just thinking about the Sunset Society today. Just think about them. You understand? So what we are understanding, like at one point, Nazi meant the new African Zulu initiative. When we got the so-called black Nazis, the black Hitler, the black Himmler, these real people that was dealing with the real Otto von Bismarck, the real Kaiser Wilhelm, and the rest of these dudes that was with the Archduke Ferdinand, all these people's black Germans, absolute monarchs that, again, were decided to go and take somebody else's land. So these are indigenous Europeans who decided to go into what we'll call Africa and set off things there, while over here, the same thing is happening. You got the so-called original man who is already here, and then you have the different variations of his cousins and them coming from different places to escape all of the stuff that was happening in Europe. And all of that happened within the realm of the four gates. You understand? The four spheres, the four quarters, right? Okay, so we go from that to this. In order to create these things, they had to, or in order for us to, get past that, once we accept the fact, okay, all of this that they showing us is one thing. So I gotta understand that when I'm thinking about who had power of the day and what these people were prior to what they've told me they. So when you think about, show you an image of. Wait, sorry. So for instance, these, when we think of the Barbary powers of the day, right? We're talking about those people who are connected to the Moors in general. Now, Morocco at this point is an empire. So anywhere that people are Moors or phenotypically Moors, they are considered part of the Barbary power. So this is His Majesty the last Sultan of Zanzibar, His Majesty El Hamid. This is his son, His Majesty Prince Said, and then this was the Grand Chiefs of the Moors, of what we'll call the Maghreb. You understand? So these right here, this is what you consider, let's say, Moors in the modern era. At the time, the black people were supposed to be going through Jim Crow and all this stuff over here, which I'm not saying they wasn't. I'm just saying that they is trying to make it seem like the people in the world was out here and didn't have no power. Then when you think of the Europeans now, right? This is King George. George the Sixth. On the left, his Moorish name was Sayyid Muhammad. In the middle is the German Prince Christian from the elect of Habsburg. And then we got Carlos Quintus, aka Charles V, aka Lord of the House of Bourbon, Lord of the Habsburgs, and 25th Emperor of the Incas. These are the Europeans. So these are the white people, or images of them. Here's George. right? 6, this is Christian. Germany. So this is what the Germans, right, look like. And then here again is Charles with the Chinese diadem, showing his connection to the Asiatics, right? So these would be considered the European powers, understand? At the time that we're going through stuff. Yes, the Habsburg jaw, right? The mandible jaw. Islam. So these were the Christians. So these is so what I'm telling you also is that when you're thinking about white people coming over from England, you understand? This is who you talking about. The only people that had money to come over here outside of the transportation system established by George's grandfather, another black man, right? Or excuse me, D. Muhammad's grandfather, another black man. You had to have money to come over here. And then once you came over here, you had to know somebody to vouch for you to stay on the land and live under the treaty. And George's grandfathers was the first ones to make the treaty with who? Anybody? Thank you. The Delaware Moors, not the Delaware Indians. These Moors that was in Delaware. Islam to my brother, he sent me this. So I was building with him. We have to be building on Armorica. And he said he saw this on the internet, sent this out to me. Now the term Armorica, armorica, means, look, I'm going to look at it in 2 ways. This is how old, this is how long we've been here. Armorica, the ancient name for Brittany, for Gallo-Roman, Aremorica, literally, before the sea, with a Celtic prefix meaning before. So if you compare the old, when we say mar and sea, we're talking about the old Moorish sea, the Morai body of water, i.e. the Moorish body of water that existed before the sea. What sea are they talking about? You think the Atlantic? Yes, but let's look at the thing a little closer. This part specifically. See this? Before the sea, when Eurasia, North America, South America, Africa, Antarctica, and the joint was, and Australia was all together after the sea. See? And so to show the lands that existed before the drift, they refer to those lands under the term Mar-de, right? Meaning what? The Mars Sea, meaning the Moorish body of water. Before the continental divide, before the division, before the great flood. This is why the Moors are the kings of the 7 seas and were referred to as Poseidon. This is another variation of the same understanding of what I'm telling you in between these 2 maps. You see? That's why 600, you can look this up yourself, 600 of the 600 and what, 10 or 20 foods in Africa all are found with the original seeds over here in Armorica. He didn't say more India. So what are they talking about? That the Moors ain't from America. What are they talking about when they tell you that the Moors don't have no history and this and that Greeks thing? What are you talking about? There was no Greeks in the map I just showed you. They didn't even exist at that time, right? That's what we just saw, right? Okay, well then let's check this out. When we're talking about the overall understanding that they want to give you again is that you are not from here. But everything over there was based on everything that was over here. And we can find that in places like Germany and Russia that never got rid of the iconography. And who the white people that's been there have only been there since World War II, so they don't know what they're talking about. They just remake the history to fit who's over there and then leave the old stuff and say, oh, this is what we did for slavery. Look at this. This is from the Wappenheim, from the Wappenschmalung, right? The Wappenheim, or the Wappenheim is the precursor to what became in ancient Germany became what you like would say is the continuation of the Knights of the Round Table. That's what Saint Maurice and all of these Moors, Saint Corbinius and all of these illustrious Moors of the old Privy Member Council was able to reunify Europa after the fall of Albion the Giant to Breton, to Brutus, aka Breton. So these Moors have their understanding because they all were part of the ancient bloodlines that went back to old school Armorica. That's why we find the word Armorica written about more in the European doctrine in dialects and stuff than over here. Look, same castle. Right? Only thing, this one in America, this one over there in Bavaria. This is the same people. Our problem, again, is that we created the division of our mind because we don't understand the words and who they're referring to when they refer to words such as, let's say, native, right? That's a word everybody likes to use. I'm native to the land, right? Okay, well, let's look at what they're talking about. Show you who the natives are. This is what's going to make you native. This is why you're not a native. You have nativity to a particular state or estate. That's no question. But to be native, you know what I'm saying? The way when it comes to, net rights and nationality stuff, you gotta be careful with that. Okay. That's good. Look. Mid 15th century word coming from natus, right? One born a serf or a villain, a sense now obsolete from native to an adjective. In some usages from medieval Latin nativus. Noun use of nativus is an adjective, compared in the Old French naif, which also meant woman born in slavery. From 1530s as one born in certain place or country, applied from 1600 to the original inhabitants of non-European nations where Europeans hold political power, for example, American Indians. by the 1630s, hence the use of contemptuously the locals from 1800. These natives were the concubine slaves that were paid off to those broken, dirty Moors who was using their Mameluke slaves to wage war against their brothers and sisters in hopes that they Mamelukes people would win, and then they could disinherit and wipe their whole line out by making them breed with the white people. Because there was harsh laws amongst the original people against doing that. And someone proved that too. So what they did was they traded up their women, who was already basically slaves, to create the Native American. You understand? The person that you call the Native American, who's descended from the Siberians, right? Who came over from the original conquest in the 13th century by Tartary and the rest of them. So to create the Native American, they had to get white genes and they had to get Chinese genes, right? I'm gonna show you how they did it. So look, get this book, White Women Captives in North Africa. Remember, North Africa means everything northwest of Africa. That's America. Here, Armorica. You understand? And then this is an old article from the San Francisco Call that told you the Chinese slave girls being landed as native daughters. See, the shameful traffic in Oriental charters, which is being maintained as a source of great profit by the local ring, revealed the documents which have been presented in federal authorities. This is where they came from. You understand? This is how they got here. This is how they got that status. Because they made them to occupy the status that they was taken from the original so-called American Indians, like it says in the definition. Because where the Europeans held the political power, but I just showed you who the Europeans were. We ain't shown the white people yet, but well, the white people we showed was the Europeans, but these Europeans is not the white people that we are seeing today as that. There was harsh laws against that, interbreeding with them like that. Somebody sent me this. This dude, After Legend. Well, he didn't send me, but one of my Moors on Facebook. Hear me? He said it had been Seminole custom for many years to kill half-breed babies. Jose had to fight the tribal elder who came to take the baby from the arms in order to drown the child in the Tenaya Canal. It's from the history of the Seminoles. Half-breeds were killed. If a girl got mixed up with a white man, she was beaten and whipped. They would kill the white man if they caught him around the so-called Indian herd. So that's the only reason why these ones exist. And look, there's the white gene, right? There's the Chinese gene. See? To replace them, us. You understand? You see the problem? So that proves the very fact that they are the hue that they are proves that they're not the original ones. Then how is it that they get the rights? Because the people who created them, you understand, were able to do deals with them while they were fighting wars against the rest of us and those of them that wasn't down with us. But they didn't have no power. They were the Indian associates. They didn't live in the cities. They didn't live by the mounds. They didn't live in the pyramids. They didn't live in the Pueblo cities. They didn't live in none of that stuff. They lived in teepees. They was homeless. They lived like refugees. And those clans that was already out there, meaning the Moors that was already out there, that was already living on the land and stuff, these are the guys that taught them through the centuries how to live off the land and all of that. Put it like this. Let me show you something. You tell me what you think. Now, again, this is a representation of Choctaw royalty. And on the other is the royalty from a nation in what they refer to as Africa. Right? Which one do you think that your ancestors, these people, you in the class, I'm not talking about everybody in the world, I'm just talking about you, just on a glance, which one do you think your ancestors, by these two images, which one do you think, the one on the left or your ancestors, the one on the right? I'm not saying, I mean like your ancestors in the last like 2,000 years. Which ones do you think was most likely yours? Left or the right? They both, so now look, it ain't because of their color. They both basically the same color in the character. They same color as the people on the thing. So it ain't that, is it? Which ones do you identify with? I'm not talking about whether they beautiful or not, whether they black or not, or dark or not. If you was to look at your ancestors and really look at it and go within yourself, which one, which of these two ancestors do you think was more directly in your line within the last 2,000 years? Yes, both. But I'm talking about in the last 1,000 or 2,000 years. We both have both, of course. It's not what I'm saying, but I'm talking about in the last direct lineage wise. There's nothing wrong with either. That's the other thing I'm saying. But most people said the right. And I said that because most of us, again, when we came up here in America learning about nations with people just like this, we disassociated ourselves with that because we were forced to identify specifically with them when that was not our direct historical reference. You understand? This image of us was given to us through the eyes of a caveman, through Tarzan, through Edgar Rice, what's his name? The dude that wrote Tarzan and Rudyard Kipling and the rest of them. You understand? Meanwhile, we were still like this here in America, but we're cut off from seeing anybody that still can maintain like this. You understand? And so this was then converted into the dress of that you would see like in the vaudeville with the rich black people and all of that, because they had to now go into the modern times where this now became the predominant image that they wanted to bring here, because this associated us more with the narrative of coming from Africa. You understand? Whereas this solidified the fact that we were not. But these images basically existed at this image is older than this one. Think about that. And this was of Choctaw royalty. So they're both us. But what I'm saying is that one, which represented the aspect of us that was from the other side after the divide, became more useful than what we actually are or were. You understand? That has led to us believing that we are from a different place. Therefore, we have no place. You see? Therefore, we are struck to exist wherever we are placed, all for lack of knowledge of our own DNA structure, which would then give us more pride in understanding who we are as multi-dimensional beings, but also gives us better aspect to understanding what our ancestors left for us. So that way it is interpreted by us and not by us through a movie or through a TV show. Understand? How long Bobby Hemmett and the rest of them been talking about all of the stuff we've been seeing on Lovecraft Country, myself included? Talk for years about this shit. I did a joint called Dark Plasma Synthesis, a whole series on it. Years. And the real people got it. But what I'm peeping is that a lot of those people grew up watching this stuff, and then they go to work for these people and then put everybody else on instead of where they get the stuff from. You understand? Because we don't revere, not us, but our people don't revere the people who give them the real knowledge. They go for the mainstream dudes that do that. You understand? And then that's what allows them to be gone. So the recess R factor is inherited protein found in the surface of the red blood cells. If your red blood cells has the protein, you're Rh positive. If your blood lacks the protein, you're Rh negative. Rh positive is the most common blood type. That's the Rh. See how it looked like the corona? Right? And then boom, you see this red dot? Remember how Japan's flag was the white with the red dot on it? That was to show that it was pure of the recessed gene. You understand? But now they done flipped all of that up after they dropped the bomb on them. And they home. Yeah, definitely. Wait, and there's this. So the need to, again, inherit the, like all viruses are man-made, basically. So they're all structured to corroborate the Rh factor. You know what I'm saying? So if you lack the Rh factor, you're less likely to really get any virus. That's the other thing they're not talking about. But they can't talk about that because they make money, of course, off of how many viruses they sell. But now it's coming out in a book called Corona, the False Alarm, where they basically letting you know the jig is up and who and what is really affected by it. Because this was really a derivative created based upon the underlying crisis in the white community, and that community about the extinction birth rate levels plummeting below zero worldwide for them. So this was meant to slow down or create the circumstance for them to be able to perpetuate longer, but it had the negative effects due to the Rh recess gene factor in the targeted people that they wanted who didn't have it, because they don't have no Rh factor because they're humans. So what this means is that it's only affecting non-humans. Any human that catches it usually has some sort of deficiency or precondition, which is already weakened, whatever it is, which then allows it to germinate. Yep, that's what I think he's trying to show through his little theater. But they not really talking about this. Everybody that they tested that died in Italy tested positive for the RH. So it's really now become a plague for anybody that got the Neanderthal aspect, which is all of these people dealing with this reptilian, adrenochrome, all of that. So it's killing them while we are becoming immune to it again. So they want us to re-ingest it by giving ourselves carbon monoxide poisoning by wearing the mask and participating in the satanic ritual of, you know, 6 feet apart with the mask on. That's the same thing they do, and Aleister Crowley taught them, and Madame Blavatsky taught them. So as I said, everything flows from the 4 gates, and as I showed you from the ancient times of Armorica, we've been running it like that. So again, it's Turtle Island based upon the circumstance of the turtle, not just being the shape, but the representation of the turtle as the aspect of the 13 moon 20-day, 28-day cycle, totally in tune with the cycle of the original woman, which is why they want her to get on all type of drugs and stuff to make her cycle off, so that way the world's cycle is off. Could you imagine a whole community or a whole country of situations where all of the women's cycle was specifically around the same time? And each one of them harvesting that into some sort of plant or some sort of tree for the benefit of the nation or whatever. And that became a thing that those people did. Do you know what would happen? So the 13 moon, 28 days on the turtle cells, this equals the 364 days, right? Remember, it's that number again, 360, 364, 365, plus 1 day of rest. All indigenous people around the world knew the wisdom of the turtle, followed the 13-month calendar, and after all, these 13 moon cycles in the year, 27, 29 per cycle. It's almost as if the white man subtracted 1 month in order to sever the connection between the people and the sun, right? The stars, which are themselves the giant clock, which are in tune then to the 4 gates, right? That navigate the 4 winds, that navigate the 4 what they call the 4 circumstances, which are the navigational principles that allow you to circumnavigate the firmament. And then transcend the firmament depending upon how much you know or how elevated you are spiritually. That's why these niggas can't get out. Yeah, through the Kituwa Society. That's one of the lodges. But that's the thing. A lot of these people are not claiming Aboriginal and claiming Indian and all of this crap. They're not really like in it. Like they still like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're not really seeing the forest for the trees. But it's the gateway back to your original situation, because now you're opened up internationally to do stuff. Ophiuchus. Like you'll see here, another, my Moors, one of your classmates sent me this joint, and it reminded me of this as well, to show again the jurisdiction and how it works. Elizabeth of Bohemia, 1596, there's that date again, 6 to 1662, daughter of James the fifth, sixth of Scotland, and first of England and Ireland, mother of Anne of Denmark, wife of Frederick the Fifth, Elector Palatine, right? Holy Roman Empire. Palatine is the Holy Roman Empire. Briefly, Queen of Bohemia. Due to her husband's short reign of Bohemia, Elizabeth is also referred to as the Winter Queen. And with the demise of the Stuart dynasty in 1714, her descendants, the Hanoverian rulers, succeeded to the British throne, right? Now, one of these other joint, I thought this was the one that had MR on it, on either side of a MR. That MR is referring back to the Libyan script that they found in the ancient map in Nevada. And the word MR, which is the by root for more, which is the Libyan meaning for land on the other side of the sea, right? Or before the sea, right? Before the sea, Armorica means before the sea, right? Exactly. So what this shows again is that all of these people that I'm showing you is Europeans, but these Europeans are melanated, and they are all rulers, you see, who have the wherewithal and the means and the ancient connection, right, to the Moorish Empire to be able to come over here to escape the change of the government, where they're going from the Habsburgs to the Hanoverians, you see. So when we speak then of the divide between the so-called Europeans and them, this is where it happened, because half of them was that, and then the other half was on that draconian steeds, trying to bring the bloodletting and the slavery stuff, and they were at war with each other because of that. So when we speak of the Asiatic people, right, or who they refer to as the Tartarians, right, or the Tartarians, the ancient Tartarians, again, we're talking about the Asian and the Ixhiatic, right? XI. This is a jade warrior from the same time period found in Shinar, what again we now today call China. Again, this is the so-called Olmec head. China is also called Shinar. China is also called Tartary. China is also called Tauran. China is also called Thrace. China is also called Cathay by us. Manchuria, indeed. And then collectively, it can be referred to as Eurasia. So this is what Genghis and these people look like. And when they talk about the black Tartars, they want to flip it like the black Tartars to the white Tartars. This is the Asians that is descended with us, where we coming from. Going all the way back, this was a lithograph. This is a copy of a painting done by an artist. This is in all jade. This is in all basalt. Right? So the disturbance with Rome, we kind of briefly discussed, but I'll show you this. Because there's all these stories about how it's formed. Oh, wait, before I show you that, this, I'm going to show you, this was an old paint drawing, allegedly by, they say it was Talcott, Andrew Talcott, the dude that did the White House and all of that, but I think it was actually Bembe, of the White House on your left. And then on your right is the money to show you how we was running stuff, or how the empire or the government looked prior to that. This is what they tore down to build the White House or the mosque that we see today. That became, well, first it became a mosque, and then from there, and then they shut that down. I'll show that next. Yeah, technically, the Republic of China is Taiwan now. So you see on the money, it says Perennis, which is the father. So if there's a month, think about it. If there's a motherland, there has to be a fatherland, right? So think of America as the deadbeat dad for Africa. That's why the oldest pyramid that you'll read about, that the Egyptologists will tell you about, is called the Saqqara Pyramid, allegedly built by Zoser. And that pyramid is a step pyramid, meaning that the pyramids that became pyramidions, with the pyramidion top, meaning the what you know as a pyramid top at the top, were built after, meaning that this is the prototype, meaning that this, which was the original pyramid that was then set up over there to show the dominion now spreading, you see what I'm saying, was the foundation, which again is why it's in the money. So again, this is showing you how deep it's connected. No, this is the White House in Washington. Before they turned it into the White House, this was torn down. Then they turned it into what became the national buildings all over the world. I'll show you that in a minute. And then that was like a mosque or whatever. It was also a mosque. And then once that fell, the building then got repurposed, built on top of again, and now is what we understand as the White House. This is the drawing from one of the sketches of how it looked prior to the demolition. And this, like I said, on the right side is the verification showing that this is what was on the money. This is how deeply rooted in the country it was, because it was on the money and it was a part of the Congress. But everything flipped. But they don't give us this part of history, because then this part of history shows that we're running the world, really. Yeah, to build what you understand as the White House, which again is really a mosque. Big up to Searching for More. Show you another one. And show you how the Shriners always hide it. Show you. All these buildings that you see like this are mosques, or were mosques from the old empire that were repurposed. You see this right here? This is on top. This goes further down. This thing is built on top of this. They repurposed this to this. But this was the structure that we used to show dominion over the whole world. That's why all the government buildings on the planet have this rotunda and dome shape. The only thing missing at the top is the crescent. And the Shriners know this. See at the top, it says Islam, and it's the president. Because they all in secret, they all running the game. They all know that it's the Moorish Empire and that they been you know, destroying us based upon what we don't know. Look, here go the other one. Remember, when they all become Freemasons, this right here is the rich Illuminati niggas becoming Shriners, because all these niggas was the same. All these niggas is the rich, like Bill Gates and these niggas going through the ritual, while these guys know what's really up. Because to be this, you had to go through the highest of the Scottish Rite, the highest of the York Rite, the highest of the Druidic Rite, or whatever rite that is, and then you gotta take your Shahada. You take your Shahada by going to one of the government buildings, and they put you on to the real science that you really serving Allah, and that you are representing the devil in the story, and that you can't do nothing but do devil's work in the name of Allah. Like, this is how sick these niggas are. Then you get to go either 33 degrees up or 30 degrees below. If you go below, you get the real devil power and all that other stuff. You get into the lycanthropy and the vampirism and all of that. The baby eating stuff is light. That's like the doorway into that. That's the little stuff you got to do. That's walking the red carpet. That's why in Hollywood, everybody got to walk the red carpet, because it's all a ritual. Because they're all trying to get that sword above their head. That's why all nations on the earth that have these buildings have them for a reason, because the Barbary powers was in control of those places and built them up from time immemorial, from the fall, based upon the rise of the female pope. Anybody ever heard of the female pope? Why Rome got shut down? Well, they tell you that it was sacked by the Germans or whoever, right? Then they tell you it was the Visigoths. Then they tell you it was the Arabs. Then they tell you all this other stuff. We're talking about Rome, like what we know is the Sabaean Rome. All of that. Okay. Well, first of all of the Romans we know are ancient Sabaeans. And those ancient Sabaeans are ancient Ethiopians. And those ancient Ethiopians are ancient Hindus. Right? Everybody got it? Okay. So based on that, they all are Christians, but they're also pagans because they deal with the iconography and all of that. Meaning that the art, like they worship the art. The art is not there to venerate the culture. It's more of a thing where it's used to control, basically. So we'll just switch Vishnu for Jesus, you know what I'm saying? And whatever. So this right here is Septimius Severus, allegedly, who was one of the reformers of Rome, one of the Moorish reformers of Rome that came. He had descendancy from Carthage. But he still practiced the European practice of marrying a slave, like I showed you. So his children, again, came out, lighter or whatever. Such as that. So as you see, this is the old school creation, but these are still melanated people. So once the conversion came and they decided they're going to now bring everybody into that, everybody that was now Muslim or original had to be converted and brought up the ladder, brought up Yaqub's ladder. See what I'm saying? So again, it was a curse to have the leopard skin and all of that. So these Caucasoid Slavs, if you will, was used as means of war, where other families would sick them on other families to put them out of business. You know what I'm saying? And then eventually force their heir to marry one of them to then produce what we would call a mestizo or mulatto or whatever, and then marry that one to one of their Mameluke slaves or whatever, you see what I'm saying? And then boom, now they're done. And that was basically the practice of the Romans, which is why they got shut down. So like the Rastafarian culture that was brought to them allegedly in the name of Selassie, whose real name again was also Victor, right? They were really just following an ancient rite of the Russian Orthodoxy that Selassie and them dealt with as Greek Orthodox under Blessed John the Hairy, who was what they called the Holy Fool. He was like the Rasputin of the day. He had locks and all of that. And he was, you know, he lived off the land, he smoked weed and all of that. So, yeah, Victor the First. So, in that, he was a part of the court. So, Selassie and them, I think, also knew that. And that image, when they saw it, they knew that it was an aspect of the court that they could manipulate to be able to deify him, to give him greater standing in the world. Understand? So you see, all of Christianity has always been fostered by melanated people from that particular Roman line or whatever. But the rubber met the road when they got so decadent that you know, they had to get shut down. But in shutting them down, it was a period over a long period of time. So the succession of the German invasions that happened, but that happened over a succession of time. The political infighting, assassinations that happened, you know. But the straw that broke the camel's back that they never speak about, which is why, again, they set up the intersystemist to get rid of information like this, was the establishment of the female pope. So her name was Pope Joan, like Joan of Arc. Pope Joan, 855, 857, was, according to legend, a woman who reigned as pope for a few years during the Middle Ages. Her story first appeared in the chronicles of the 13th century, subsequently spread throughout Europe. The story was widely believed for centuries, but most modern scholars regard it as fictional, because all of them is Freemasons. Most versions of her story describe her as a talented and learned woman who disguised herself as a man, often at the behest of a lover. In the most common accounts, due to her ability, she rose through the church hierarchy and was eventually elected pope. Her sex was revealed when she gave birth during a procession, and she died shortly after, either through murder or natural causes. The accountants state that later church processions avoided this spot and that the Vatican removed the female pope from its official list and crafted a ritual to ensure that future popes were male. In the 16th century, Seine Cathedral featured a bust of Joanne among other pontiffs. This was removed after protests in the 1600s. This is the bust, right? So this is what they say she looked like, right? This is what they say she looked like, right? Repeat. At the side of this statue, on the right side, around the corner, where this hand is pointing, there's this. Do the knowledge. The bronze statue. See what I'm saying? Look. Where you look at it on the angle where this hand is pointing, on the other side, is pointing to this. The only other female in the whole joint. This is Joan, the black woman. That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that the statue, the white statue they got that they took down in the 1600s, they just put up in the church, was pointing to the real joint. You know what that mean when it's in bronze? You know what that mean. And that's a Moor. It's a Moorish woman. See that, right? So now look, this here goes verified in history. While the Christian world was enveloped in darkness and all learning, save that of the worthless metaphysics and Ptolemaic theology, see, all of this whack stuff, had been banished from the minds of men, meaning that they just was done. While England was distracted by Danish and Norman invasion, this is black people invading black people, and the barbarous monks defied the authority of their kings in the very presence of the throne, while Charlemagne was desolating the provinces of Germany by sweeping the merciless protection, while the ecumenical councils were performing the virtues of celibacy and the anality of images, while the populace of Rome was amused by the scandal of a female pope. During this period of intellectual stagnation, the Moorish princess of Spain and Sicily, alone among the sovereigns of the West, kept alive the sacred fires of art, science, and philosophy. They instituted pederasty as part of the Catholic Church after this period of Joan. So when you say why they always having sex with the little boys, they figured they would replace the women with the boys. And then always rape the girl as part of the ritual. You see what I'm saying? To defy Joan. Evil. I don't even think it's patriarchal, matriarchal. It's just evil. You know? But it's definitely a part of the Ignatius Loyola tradition that they eventually evolved it into after the fall of the Moors. You see, this is why we all messed up now and why they hate women. Because they was ruled over again by one of the Ethiopian descendants who basically posed as a dude, which was part of the Attis tradition, right? And was able to get her way all the way up and then started trying to do stuff to get them out of the stagnation that they was in. Because Rome at this time was basically broken up into the different kingdoms that we're talking about. The Normans wasn't even Roman. They was coming from France. And they, again, by way of, they were melanated too. All of these are black people we talk about. None of these people are white. These are the aspects of history that they, again, flip and then turn into something else to throw us off on what's really happening. Because, again, when we talk about the establishment of the Moors and what we did, everybody's still living off of that. So when we talk about the Spanish that we was fighting against and all of that, we're talking about people like this, who was the father of Ferdinand and them. Caucasians was just used as, with, you know, cannon fodder, bartering, making races of people, you know what I'm saying, cleaning out caves. Like that's, they had no jurisdiction over nothing. You understand? Because they had no history outside of that which was given to them. And certain nations throughout the years or centuries exploited that. But it was always known where and what they was capable of based upon the nature that they were brought into and how people have been trying to figure out what to do with them, all of that. So they took that as a form of power and associated themselves under the names of the very things that was not theirs. You understand? And then created orders that were financed again by Moors who were disenfranchised with the greater empire and what was going on, whether they were from Europe or Asia or wherever. Yeah, Normans were Normans, meaning black men. Right, that's what all of that is penance for. Because remember, I'm telling you, these Ethiopians were also at one point Indians and were kicked out by the Mauryan and the Chandragupta dynasties and all that. So once they wound up in Liabella and then took over and then adopted the Ethiopian term and then under Azanias to establish the Christian nation, they basically just took their Indian thing and made it Coptic. You dig what I'm saying? And then used that to establish colonies in Europa and what we call Italy. And then whoever became king of Italy became Holy Roman Empire. Well, where he became king of Italy and then was crowned in Germany, became Holy Roman Emperor. That's why Victor would always be in holding the scepter and the ball and all of that, and had the Queen Elizabeth and them bowing to him because they knew the deal. Basically, it seemed like he wanted to establish another state in retaliation for the whole League of Nations thing, trying to dead that, stop the prophet from coming up. And so he decided to get Mussolini and them, and eventually Franco and them, to establish or help establish a state via Russia through the Tsar, through his relationship with the Tsar and them, and then got them basically to invade his own nation because he wasn't set to be king at the time. And then in that, he goes to England, basically gets crowned Holy Roman Emperor, and then as Victor orders Britain to help Ethiopia, you see what I'm saying? To help establish a waypoint, which would be Eritrea, which is what he wanted anyway. Because the Eritreans were basically Italians, and those Italians or Guineas at the time were all black. Were basically Sicilians and you know, what they call Italians. That's why no Italians and none of these people was considered white until after 1945, 1950. You understand? The whole thing changed. The reason why we don't understand more today, big up to Brother Alexander, brought this back up in my mind. The Elilio Antonio de Nebrija, the Grammatica de la Lengua Castellana, right? The E Justidias Nebrisensis, right? For 1492 to 1992. The original context of this comes from this aspect, and then I'll explain. But people of the world began to hide remaining Moors, so this elite army could not find them. According to the expression connectors, I hate languages, monarchs were forced to surrender some of this jurisdiction to local villages, towns and districts. This is them taking the power from the original black monarchs eventually. The French expression connector tells the man, the women, the children were gifted in hiding on any terrain, and the Vatican was receiving reports that Moors were arriving in their homelands. So a new department was formed in which the policemen of today, which are the policemen of today. This was the domestic jurisdiction, so the international violators had to have domestic charge, had to have a domestic charge. Read that again. So a new department was formed, which are the policemen of today. This domestic jurisdiction, so the international violators had to have a domestic charge. The Vatican was ready for the common people to take over because they came up with one. In Latin, renegade, meaning again denied. And the jurisdiction of the new formed police department was ready to operate. It started as KOP, cop, and advanced to CAT, meaning to catch, seize, take, steal. But it was the Spanish with their new given language that really perfected the system. After 1492, when they decided that they was going to be Spanish, and then when I say they, I'm talking about the Spanish, and at the time those Spanish were people like this dude, Sancho the First, 925, King of Pamplona, who was the father of the Navarro house, right? Italian, Roman, claimed to be from the original house of Astara, or what they call Austria, because that is as far as the Moors went when they took over everything. They let the Austrians rock because they was Germans, and the Germans through the whole was down with us because we're the ones that allowed them to reestablish their titles to establish the Holy Roman Empire. And they dealt heavy with white slaves, and they didn't like the Spanish for what they did to the Moors, so we was always cool. That's why in Django, Dutch Schultz was the German who came from Germany to help him, because he realized that he was really Heinrich, and then Brunhilde was the female, meaning the king and the queen, that were kidnapped and brought to America as slaves. See? So Sancho and these people helped establish the Castilian language and merged the House of Castile and Aragon, which was then fomented in the language, in which now Moor was now not going to be seen as a king or queen or all of that. It was going to be used as an adjective to describe something. You understand? And this was then the language enforced on any Moors who were then kidnapped or forced into slavery under this Spanish regime. And those Moors that weren't were the free Moors who was against all of that, who fought against the army that was then sent out on behalf of the Vatican to get rid of them. Those are the Holy Inquisitors. Understand? These are the Jesuits. These are the police. These are the lawyers. These are the doctors. That's all of these people. Because this is the oath they're really taking. And the English version of the oaths that they're taking are really always there's always a Castilian translation in that. Because it has to be, again, see, it has to be taken from international to a domestic charge. That's why they're able to trade the bonds internationally. You understand? Exactly. Funneled through the Fraternal Order of Police, who promote the idea of qualified immunity. You understand? So they almost have it where getting rid of original men and women is a matter of national security, because this is the jurisdiction that they're putting all of this under, really. And allegedly what this dude is allegedly fighting against, you know, which is whatever. But in our context, these ancient things are used today in finance and law to keep us locked down. On your left is the ancient plate, cuneiform plate from in Sanskrit from, it's not really Sanskrit, but the closest thing to it, Sanskrit from ancient Samaria, that denoted a certain amount of money. Basically, it was a bond. And then on your right is the original series or image of the original series bond for the Treaty of Versailles. You tell me if you see something familiar. Yeah, exactly. It's made to resemble the clay. Yes. Because remember, this is Mystery Babylon. This is what I'm saying. These are the Moors that they were trying to wipe out in organ harvest and all of that in China. But they don't show you these ones. Because again, the Chinese, all these people was trying to hide the same thing, man. You know what I'm saying? No. None of the Arabs trying to do anything about that. All that money, all that power, they be talking to these dudes. They don't care. They ain't rocking with them. So when you think these guys are really African, they're really Europeans that got banished to Africa. You understand? They couldn't go back, so they had to change the Africans to their European ways, and then use the same tactics that they used with the white man and brought them in to do a lot of the brutal work, the same way we think they did with us. It was the same. It was reverse. Look, Is this an African uniform or is this a Czechoslovakian Cossack uniform? Because he was also one of the princes of Russia, Victor, because he was the king, he was the cousin of Nicholas, who was also black. And they were the two that got they got murked, right? Look, this is Vasily Yermak Timofeyevich Elenin was a Cossack who led the Russian conquest of Siberia, right? Where they got the Chinese girls, right? That we read about. That's where they got the Chinese girls from, right? Siberia, in the region of Ivan the Terrible. Russia's fur interests fueled their desire to expand east into Siberia because this is all black people. There's no white people. I'm showing and proving there's no white people. Where the white people at? Where the white people power at? Look, he got the same clothes he got on. He's the same thing because he's European first. He's Italian first, European second, British third, Russian fourth. Man, they always like that. We've been bugging. We've been making it up. We've been bugging. We've been looking at it from a whole different perspective. Like we just been taking everything they've been saying and not really seeing it for what it is. It was them, it was us all along. Understand? The government that was founded, the Republican form of government, goes all the way back again to Hannibal and all of them, which is why the original men who founded the Republic chose to refer to themselves as Republicans, and why the elephant was chosen. They're not going to tell you that. You're not going to get a piece of paper where they're going to admit that to us. We have to deduce that from the symbolism because that is how they are really talking to us. It's nothing to do with what I want to be true based upon whatever. It has to do with what they're doing. You understand? So what has really been going on was really a battle between these two states, the northern and the southern jurisdiction. But they captured the capital and the culture. They held on to the liberty. You see what I'm saying? And the fortitude under the veil of that. But once they put on the feathers with the writing on it, they got down with these niggas. So how we as Moors gonna come up between either one of these people? How you gonna come up with them as Indians? Great. These Indians have their own state. Are they all Caucasian Indians? Are you gonna have to go there and pay these Indians rent, knowing that you got all this DNA, all this evidence? We don't know. We gotta go check it out. But what I do know is everything that they tell us is foreign is from America. Like Wakanda, from the book The Monist. The Bureau of Ethnology writes that among these tribes, the sun is Wakanda. Not the Wakanda or Wakanda, but simply Wakanda. The moon is Wakanda, and so are the thunder and lightning, the stars and the winds, the cedar, even a man, especially a shaman, might be a Wakanda. So Wakanda is like saying more. Like peace Wakanda, nah Wakanda. Wakanda. See what I'm saying? Like this is what it is. This is from the North American Philosophy of Science Department, B. And the real Wakanda tribe is suing Disney and all of them for stealing the culture and making money off of that and revealing the secrets of how they do stuff. It's facts. Look it up. Put a curse. They said they put a curse on the whole thing. And you see what that happened? Golden Jaguar is America. So Killmonger represented us here in America. Coming ready to make it happen. You dig? But too extreme with the female. You know what I mean? The black females, you can't be that crazy. So again, they both represent the same half. Why can't you have both in one being? Or a group of people with the same ideology together working for the same cause? They could have worked the way to do it. Because in the comic, Wakanda takes over everything. They take over everything, the galaxy, everybody. So, you know what I'm saying? You might as well get a run on it. Think about it. Remember, I told you everything they're doing is based upon their destructive habits of not being able to stop the extinction. So they have no way out. So the only way out is to slow us up. You dig what I'm saying? So we can't get caught up in the Christian, the Hebrew, and all of that because all of these are Moors in the very recent past. You know what I mean? Uh, when you think American Indian, you're thinking Moors, but they want you to go with the European version because they want to throw the Islam in. But the pipe carrier that I showed before explained that they didn't tell nobody that they was that wasn't in the tribe, that wasn't Islam, and that they have been practicing this for thousands upon thousands of years. And that unless you was in the tribe, unless you was a part of that clan, you didn't know. That's what the Kituwa society was about. That's what the false faith society was about. They was the first ones wearing masks and all of that. But Moors don't know about that. They just want to talk and act like whatever. This dude in the middle, Ramadan Ibn Wati, is also the one they refer to as Osceola. So again, I'm not hating on any of them. Big up to Ab, big up to Johnny, big up to these people because I don't know these people personally. But I know in doing this all of these years, this has been the best time because, you know, everything is at fingertip. But this is what our ancestors look like fighting in the American Civil War. Understand? This is who was running the Cherokees. Yeah, yeah. This is the one chasing the white man away from having sex with the women. Yeah. That's his Muslim name, Ramadan ibn Wati. And you got Tucci, like Tunchi. All these dudes. Black coat, all these dudes, man. These niggas wasn't worshiping corn and the wind and all of that. Think these people didn't know about mathematics? Think these people didn't know about really who these pyramids or who these Moors was? You think they didn't know that? You think they didn't know what a real Mecca was? Come on, man. I don't live in the Bronx, but I know where the Apollo at. No, I don't live in Harlem, you know what I'm saying? But I know where the Apollo at. Like, come on, man. I'm acting like niggas was limited based upon them not understanding what Armorica means. We was here before the sea, bro. Before there was any sea over here, we was over here. Running shit. You know what I mean? While y'all was over there bugging and waiting for us to come over there and bail y'all out of stuff. That's why Hebrew mean across the river, man. They crossed over. So how are y'all Hebrews? How are y'all crossing over? How are you then? And then if you're Hebrews and you're crossing over, how are you indigenous to where you're at? Does that make sense? Nope. These niggas is blind. Then like I said, they still practicing this pagan Christianity, Reagan. Pseudo Jewish uh, uh, conspiracy crap. You know what I mean? With these fake messiahs and these fake Christian nations that was really just again started out as in the origins. Read the Consecrated Talisman about the Mauryan dynasty, what they did to the Indians that was there. That was bugging, sacrificing and all of that. Maybe we shut all of that down thousands of years before. So again, here go the Mongols coming, who were the Chinese ones that was brought and paid for by the Cossacks and all of them, and was brought through the Ethiopia. That's what they went to war with. Read about the Ethiopian-Russian War and how Hannibal Petrovich became part of the Russian noble family. So you think that all these white people let this one black man amongst them? No, they was all melanated. The Slavs came from this side, the Pacific. These dudes came from the Atlantic. Next week we'll get into Moorish Russia in America. So yeah, again, I don't know what these dudes is talking about. So you see these movies with these white people playing Ferdinand and all of these people, Sancho and all these people was black men. I ain't even gonna argue. Can't even argue with these people no more. Like whatever, yo. So when you talk about the inland of California, when you look at the actual old maps prior to Reconstruction, you'll see this. The Red Sea. Understand? So when you look at it from this perspective, then in the biblical context, it's right, the Sea of Reeds right here, right where they burning all of the trees up with the lasers right now. See, that's what I'm saying. We don't even know where we at. Look, this is Egypt, basically, which is Grenada. See what I'm saying? Which is Morocco, which is whatever you want to call it. Then down here you got Canaan, which is Moab. And over here, this place right here is the Red Sea. All the pyramids and all of the stuff that was here, all of that is under the water. They done got rid of all. So when the Hebrews had to leave and cross over, they crossed over to leave Egypt. They came here, allegedly. And they moved down to Canaan. See? Crossed over from the Red Sea to here. And from here, all the way down here, which is what? The Inca, right? Peru and all of that, right? Exactly, which is what? Jerusalem, right? Which was old Canaan, which was run by the Moors, right? Which is the Moabites, right? Right, right. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, these dudes be really, when they really fighting you too, no, you can't be more like that. Like when they like that, you know, you got an apron in the closet. You made an agreement or something. Anybody have any questions? This is what they scared of more. This is a painting called the taking of Jerusalem. So again, this is America. So whenever they talk you, showing you pictures of Jerusalem, whatever they take, and it's prior to Reconstruction, they showing you pictures about people here. That's why they call it the Orient. That's why they call these Orientalist pieces, because they got you under the spell of the Grand Orient, which is under the Orient, the Ordo Templi Orientalis, established by Aleister Crowley, which used to be the Golden Dawn, established by Eliphas Levi, who stole the Aquarius Gospel of Jesus Christ from the prophet. So they scared when they see Moors. Like this is what this when you say Moors, this is what they think. This is what they see. So they can think what they want. They can say what they want, because just because I'm of Thessaloniki nationality or Thessaloniki heritage doesn't mean that I can't understand Allah or can't understand any other science. You know what I'm saying? I can be all of that without any of the negative connotations that you created with it based upon your understanding, because all of these are the same culture, basically. They're all melanated people. The European Moors created all of this confusion. Because half of them wanted to suck blood and do all of that to stay young, and the other half was down with us against that. And through that, the white boys came up. And once these dudes got banished to to Africa, they did what they did and then started sending all of their money back home. That's why all of them was married to white women. Look at that. All of the African dudes was married to Caucasian. African leaders was married to Caucasian women. Because that was their custom. Because that was the only way that they would be able to have any relationship to getting their land back in Europa. And then they became tyrants and brutalized their own people. Why would they make a movie about Idi Amin and call it The Last King of Scotland? Think about it, man. Think about it. They all playing us. They all playing. They all wearing the same robes. They all wearing the same aprons. It's all a joke. This the Muskogee flag. This the Seminole flag. If you look at the Seminoles today, these niggas is whiter than white people. So you mean to tell me those people is these people? Because they was all a part of it. When they say Creek, they was part of the Yamasee Confederacy. And those Yamasee Creeks, they was a part of the Mayan or Maya Confederacy. And those Mayans go back to the Incas and the Peru and Jerusalem. And I show you where they come from. These was the original Hebrews. And these was the people that the so-called Europeans was merging into originally to stay here. Because that was the religion that they was trying to phase out over there, because they was getting into the draconian shit. Through Vlad Tepes and the Drakenberg line, through the Coben and House Wetton. Facts. See, but they don't like it when we in control of the story. See? All these niggas got feathers and turbans on. What you talking about, man? Look at the flag. Why is all the flag with crescents and stars and palm trees? Look, the South Carolina sovereignty flag was the original Confederate flag. It was later the version of the early flag raised over shortly after secession and is now in Yale University sympathizers. On the day South Carolina seceded, a red flag with two tails and a large red star upside down crescent moon at the top of the flag was raised. Say that we going back to and we were part of the empire. Islam. And these are so-called Indians you talking about. That's these people right here we talking about. But they ain't talking about them. They don't want to build with them. How is it that Anasazi, Mohegan, Skykill, Alabama, Algonquin, Seminole, how are all of these Arabic words? How are all of these Islamic words? Which I want to hate, so y'all want to pick and choose which ancestor you like. Like I showed you earlier. You identify more with the one that you're more native to, but the other one is still a part of your line. I ain't saying that. I'm just saying let's understand that there's difference between the land of your nativity and then, who you're descendant or who you're related to. So, anybody have any last questions? You have a direct culture. You have a definitive culture that is in every book that you could imagine, that they done put in your face and now it's made it too high for people to even read. I just showed you where the Asians come from. I just showed you where the so-called Native American people come from. They all come from the same place. And they were all backed up by the Holy Roman emperors who sold them to the Moors, who then sold them to the other ones, and then they used them in the Mameluke farms to help create these different races that we call the white Italians and these ones or whatever today, that eventually they used to try to replace us. Found this on the internet too. See what I'm saying? And that's over there. So it goes all the way around. I read this thing and it said how the West Africans sold slaves to the North Africans sold slaves to the West Africans. What? What? I thought North Africa was in the west of Africa. You understand? That's what I mean, man. You gotta know what's up, bro. So that's Islam. That's where all of this stuff is falling from. So anybody okay, anybody have any questions as we close out? It's a painting I found also. Just interesting. Look into your family line from what your oldest ancestor is, especially if you do like Brother Tyrone Cannon's test and stuff like that. And from there, you then look at the etymological name of that. Because what I'm showing you is if you say that you have Irish or Dutch or European in your family, I'm showing that these are not white people. These are all original people that just happen to be from this place. Yeah, the whole world was under it. The whole world. I'll show an article from one of their scientific journals where they confirm that. Yeah, once you get that, and then once you have the verification, then you can basically plot where your people's was and then build a Rexos from there. So if your people's, let's say, originated in Peru, then you know that that name that you have is ultimately a connection of some name that's reminiscent of that. So you would start to look in Peru for tribes and people who had similar names, you see, and then you build it from there. But next week we'll get into that. I'll show you the name of what they call it and what the original name was. I think we should focus on the unification of the family, the original family, in a heterosexual way, and then that would allow us to unify everything else. All right. So again, anybody else have any other questions? You could just hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com, and again, we'll get into the greater aspect of kind of what we're talking about next week. And then if you have any questions about your individual process or things like that, hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. All right. Yeah, I have a couple we'll show. Islam knows. Thank you guys for the support. Peace. Islam.